here's Ed Bernstein.
With me is Mayor Carolyn Goodman, and Mayor Goodman, you now have a different composition with assisting you on the City Council. We just had some elections.
Yes.
Right? We now have, very similar to the state legislature, we have a majority of women that are controlling the City Council.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So how does that change things, or does it?
Well, absolutely. We'll see what's going to happen, but I love it. We have 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and there's a mix, and I am the only nonpartisan. So what a great time for me, whether I'm going to be on the Democratic ticket or the Republican decision-making. So I'm looking forward to it. We got some great people. We had some great candidates who also were great potential. And but we have ended up beautifully. I think it's going to be very exciting and a lot of fun.
So when you have 3 new City Council members, there's a learning curve. Correct? I mean, so they...
For all of us, you're still learning, aren't you?
Well, for sure.
Otherwise, pack it in.
But when you enter into a new job, it's like, it is a big learning curve. What is the, what can I, commit to? What can, what is the legislative intent? What is the protocol? I mean, there's a lot to learn.
Well, we've had others, as you know, Bob Coffin, Bob Beers, both had served up at the legislature. Both have said that it was very different being at City Council. Your total day, your total experience is very much grassroots formed, because you're dealing with the people on a one-to-one basis, developers, residents who don't like what the developers are bringing in, and there's a huge learning curve, which I'm still going now into my 9th year. Every day, I think that's why I love the job, among other reasons, because every day is a learning experience. And to me, the most important thing is on everything is to hear both sides of an issue and make your decision. When you're in the legislature, you're a D or an R, you have a bill, you've got somebody promoting it, and you get in line and do what you're supposed to do.
Partisan.
Absolutely.
In that regard.
And of course the city is supposed to be for everybody. We should be ruling or having the authority to make decisions that benefits the whole, not just one party or another. It should be party-free and nonpartisan. But that's not the case sometimes.
Yeah, stereotypically speaking, women seem to be much more micro when they look at a problem and solve a problem, men being much more macro. Have you noticed that in politics?
The greatest, I've been asked so many times in learning, what has been had the greatest affect on you for this particular job? Well, as you well know, I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, but the 4 children are 38 months apart. You get nowhere. Nobody, every one of those 4 wanted 100% of the issue. I want this cup, I want it. Each one of them wanted the whole cup.
Right.
And so you have to learn to mediate so they're all happy in your house. So everybody's had to give a little, and everybody gets maybe 75% and gives. And so it's very similar at the city.
Well, obviously you did a wonderful job. You had 4 children, 2 in the law world and 2 in the medical world. And one of your sons is an oncologist, and you just dealt with some breast cancer yourself. What was that like for him? I know what I'll ask you about you, but here, he spent a lifetime learning about an illness that he treats every day, and then his mother comes down with it.
Well, he's an unusual young man. He wanted to deal with cancer and sciences and research from the time probably he was at Hyde Park and then Clark High School. Went on and studied in that field, but it was really interesting when I got sick. I wanted to be very sure that he was not in charge, that he would be a voice and everybody would clear through him. But the worst thing would be that if in fact my life was going to be very shortened, I didn't want him guilty for the rest of his life, feeling, oh, what if I'd tried this, what if I'd tried that? And so from his perspective, I'm sure there was an urge to take total control, but I absolutely drew the line at that. But he's simply brilliant, well studied, well trained. The referring patients to him from UCLA now. I hear it, obviously because of HIPAA violations.
Right.
No, he's not allowed to tell me who his patients
Right.
are, but whether it's somebody who's working in horticulture, or somebody who's a physician, or somebody who's a government employee, people come up to me all the time, supermarkets, on the street, in the gas station, or in the public venue at a party, and your son treats my mother. Your son, his specialty and his focus has always been prostate cancer. And that is his lab research to affect all of the chemotherapy that is used in treating that and the full treatment. But he does everything. And so people will come up to me at Smith's just last weekend. Your son has been treating my wife now for I don't know how many years, but she's survived because of him. And there are many very well-known people who will come up to me and say, your son's treating me. And I couldn't be more grateful, and totally educated here in Clark County, Clark High School, Clark Charger, and all the way back Hyde Park and George Harris.
And they say it about all your kids. Let's
all
give
of them,
people time to
trust
all
me.
of them. But from your perspective, you know, I mean, you have met a lot of challenges in your lifetime, been through a lot, and then, you know, this is something that women particularly are hoping that they don't ever have to deal with.
Right.
Have you changed in any way going through the experience?
Well, which most people don't know, 11 years ago I had a breast cancer in the other breast. And it actually came, I'm convinced, it absolutely came from putting my cell phone, which I carried around like everybody else does all the time, because I wanted hands-free to work. I'd slip it in my bra. And what occurred was this lump right at the spot after 4 years, and went ahead, followed up on that. But the second
I'm going to
cancer...
take my phone out of my pocket.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
You're right, but that's a message I don't think adults think of. Where am I carrying this?
Well, this is bad enough, right?
Right, but you're using it sporadically, except for the people that are on, and like my second son, who you know very well and is very fond of you and respects you so. Ross, who's an attorney, he's on the phone constantly. And so not knowing what those electric impulses are and what is being,
waves,
and people but to me, I am convinced, because there was no history in my family, but that was easily handled. The second one was different. I mean, that was just go ahead, get it out, take medication and be done. This second one, because I was running for mayor again and wanted to make sure that I was healthy, in going through that, of course, found that lump, and of course that resulted in chemo and then an operation. And 20 years ago they would operate first, then do chemo. Now it's reversed, which is absolutely phenomenal, because when they started the chemo, finished the chemo, and I kept going in for more checkups, by the time I got to the operation to remove everything, there was no trace left. So I can't tell you, Oscar and I just were so thrilled, because you look, when you hear bad news, you look, oh my goodness, how much time do I have left, and what can I do with that?
Right. And when people do get ill in Las Vegas, I mean, one of the things that we're looking for is better medical facilities. Downtown, out by the Valley Hospital and UMC, the city has been trying to create, or has created, a medical district.
Correct.
Right. What are you looking forward to in that area? I mean, are we going to get some, like the Cleveland Clinic has talked about coming in there, the Mayo Clinic? Are we going to get a big name like that?
I think in time what has to happen, there are a couple of problems which I learned from those in the financial and leadership positions at the Cleveland Clinic when I first took office. One of my first trips was to Cleveland, so excited about what Larry Ruvo had gotten into, building that Alzheimer's and brain degenerative disease facility for research. Going back there, I said, so when can we look forward to your expansion? And they said, we have a very difficult problem penciling this out. And I said, I don't understand. And the comment back from their financial and leadership gentleman was that the Medicaid reimbursement rate in Nevada is a great deal lower than California, of course, but all surrounding states, they reimburse the doctors from Medicaid at a much higher rate. Very hard to be able to expand because we can't get the lines to equal out.
Can't make money. You can't get people to come in.
Right. So that's something our legislature needs to attend to. I've been asking for that.
Is that federal or state?
It's state. Medicare, for those over 65, or maybe 55 now, Medicare is set by federal guidelines. Every state reimburses for Medicare. Every state, a very common straight line. Medicaid is determined by state, and ours is lower than Arizona, Utah, all the surrounding states. And so we bleed doctors, and everybody talks about other reasons. The key is this is a critical issue, and our legislature and our governor, I've asked each of the past two that since I've been in office to make sure that's addressed. And because our legislature only meets every other year, nothing happened again. So this is something that I just keep talking to the health district about, and talk to Comprehensive Cancer that took care of my case, but all the physicians, everybody, because doctors have to charge for whatever test you're having or treatment when you come into the office, and you rely on insurance. And for those that don't have private insurance and that do rely on Medicaid, they would do better somewhere else until we get this attended to.
So all the talk that we have of creating medical schools, and we have several already existing, and we have the the UNLV medical school.
Those are important, but I'm speaking.
Well, it's only part of the formula, right?
Right. You have to get down to the grassroots of what are the issues, and it's always funding. But we're doing beautifully. I mean, I think what's happening in the medical district, and Optum just opened there. We have we have Steinberg Diagnostic. We have a lot of Quest is in there. There's just so many medically oriented facilities and treatments and doctors, and we are getting some wonderful doctors, but we've had some wonderful doctors.
And it's right next door to the arts and the theater district.
Yes.
And I was over there this week, and I noticed there's some new parking garages being built. The city is paying for. How is that working?
Well, the city is paying for two. We're sharing. Certainly, we have two apartment complexes, mixed use with retail in the bottom, coming up, Aspen Heights and Southern Land, and they're opening across from the Smith Center. They'll probably be operative in about a year and a half. We're very excited, but the garages we are always looking for parking spaces. And plus, the World Market Center is building a convention center. And across the street from that convention center in Symphony Park will be a Marriott-type high-end facility hotel with no gaming. And so those are already in place. And then, we're talking to so many other groups because it is the center, it is the core of the entire valley. The I-15, thank you, Project Neon, you're almost done. And the 95-15, bringing in people from Henderson or going the other direction. That's made such a difference. Everything in here, arts and sports, everything, the culture. And that's why the RTC is so involved, because we have to figure ways to move people faster but more safely and fewer cars on the road. There's so many pieces to this puzzle, but we are trying to be a world-class city, and you can't have a world-class city without, first, number one, safety. Nobody's going to move anywhere if it's not safe. So Metro and our marshals and all the private safety organizations, and then health, quality health, you hit on that. But then comes culture, high-end culture.
Quality of life.
And then sports. And so that bleeds down. And then we deal with sustainability. It's so exciting, I can't tell you. I hate sleeping because there's so much to do. But the medical district and the cultural piece, you know, the 18 blocks, 18B, it's fun to come down here on any night, but on First Friday. And for those who want to invest, this is a great time for the restaurants, the taverns, the boutique shops, the antique shops. It's thriving here. And plus our new facilities, our residentials, Jewel and Fremont 9. It's just constant interest in, I want to be there. You start off in an apartment after you finish college or decide to start on a career and a job, and I don't want to be bothered with anything. And then you find somebody you want to be with for your life, you hope, and so then you think, oh, I'd like animals, and then I'd like children. So you move out, and then you're mowing, and you're cleaning, and you're doing that, and you're traveling. And then you think this is ridiculous. So once all those pieces go away, I want to go back into the city. I want to be able to walk the streets and have a good time and get a great meal. And I want them all close together so I don't have to walk miles or drive miles to get to each place. Plus the core of the city is the center of our government.
But it's also the younger demographic. I know that my girls are all in their 20s.
And you've done so well.
And on the weekends, they're all Ubering downtown. But that's fantastic. I mean, look, I've had property downtown. My law office has been down there for 43 years. And when I look at the last 10 years, for 43 years, people have been talking about creating the arts district down there, creating restaurants down there, making it like the gas lamp in San Diego. People talked. And now that I'm reflecting on this, it's really been the Goodman administration that has, over the last 10 years or so, that has really changed the face of downtown.
Well, it did start. I mean, those are, Oscar would say, absolutely the same thing. It's everybody with the same concept. But he really was just dogged in his pursuit of cleaning up the drugs, the prostitution, the boarded up housing, the whole deterioration of what was the beginning of Las Vegas. And so it did start in '99 when he saw it and realized, oh my gosh, we'll never have anything, and what a center of a city should be for everybody. But it is so exciting, and I'm delighted your daughters, you have beautiful daughters, and they're just so accomplished themselves, but that they love to come down, because I think there is just a feeling, look, we got a new canopy. We just opened a fifth of it the other night with Steve Aoki performing. It was packed. I thought I was at the NFL draft when I looked down the whole street under the canopy. It was packed. And but the young people and people coming into town now come into town specifically because they want to get downtown. They want the opportunity to get quickly from one type of environment, entertainment, to another. And it's the millennials, the focus on these younger people, and that's why when you look more globally, or certainly across the United States, certain sports are having issues with trying to keep youth interest. One, because of cost, but two, because they're slower, and because everybody's so used to the instantaneous response of their handheld device. They want action all the time, and so downtown's action.
Yes, it is. And you and Oscar have worked very hard in bringing sports into downtown, and it must be, it's a bittersweet. I mean, you work so hard to get NBA and hockey and things like that downtown, and we get them, but they're out on the strip.
That's okay.
Right? And we'll talk about the soccer in a minute, but I mean, so the good news is, hey, we got it. The bad news is, well, it's over
But everything,
in the
I'm
county.
a firm believer. Everything works out for the right reason in the end. And I remember all these years because Oscar grew up in Philadelphia and I grew up in the heart of New York City, and we came out here in '64, less than 100,000 people, desert everywhere, I mean nothing. And talking about a dream and a thought as we started to grow, it was. His first call was to Commissioner Bettman for ice hockey coming. Right. Then immediately David Sturm to go ahead, let's get basketball. But the fact that it's come, because he knew, I knew, that it would be here. It will be here. Every sport will have them all. We may not live to see them all. But the reality is that we have them and we can access them. And so that we've got, because, you know, we all enjoyed Jerry Tarkanian and our Runnin' Rebels. And our programs at the university are on the road to recovery. We've got the WNBA, which tells anybody that the NBA will follow. So, I mean, the sports has been something. He was absolutely adamant we were going to keep driving at, hopefully in the right place downtown, but I think it's best it's out by the Strip. I don't think, with the need for access to city government and all the things that we offer in the heart of the city, that to handle all the major big sports, maybe more out towards North Las Vegas, and of course our Cashman complex is ideal, because it has now, with Project Neon having finished, 7 access points, built-in 40,000 parking spaces, which is one of the issues that's going to keep the Raiders.
Parking is important.
Oh my God, you can't. Yeah. You just can't build any type of athletic program, structure, formal anything, if one, you can't access it easily, and two, you don't have the parking. And so this was not done with those thoughts in mind.
So what is the status now with Cashman Field? The baseball team has moved into their new stadium up in Summerlin, and it's been very successful. The soccer team, the Las Vegas Lights, have been working to transform Cashman to be more suitable for soccer, because they didn't have to share it with the baseball team anymore.
They won't. Major League Soccer, well, they don't want shared stadiums. So that was something. We were in this ballpark before in 2014, and we were that close to being one of the finalists to get an expansion franchise. But we got a pushback, a lack of understanding on the general public side about, you're taking my tax dollars to build whatever you're building, and that was inaccurate, and it was picked up by the press and pushed and pushed. So we started to get a lot of flack of this misunderstanding, and I just said, that's it. We can't go forward with this. We'll have to wait till we can get the message picked up properly. The best place for it then, best place for it now for Major League Soccer is Cashman. And Brett Lashbrook and the Lights have been phenomenal. Their coach, Eric, just got a nice big spread in the paper. They're really destined, and were. This was part of the plan from the commissioner of the MLS. He said, you need to go ahead and prove that you can handle and have a gate that will sustain a Major League Soccer team. It is the #1 sport in the world. You have this wonderful Mayor's Cup. You need to build on that, develop it, and increase its numbers of participants, which we've been doing every year, and then gave us the rest of the formula. So we're right in line. The main thing is the MLS, through their ownership, does not want to share a stadium. And so this plan, which has been viewed already, has a plan for a Major League retractable stadium, probably slippage, I would imagine, the grass, which they've come up with this time. Soccer players don't want to and will not play professionally unless under duress, I guess, on artificial turf. And so you have a problem of sustaining, quality turf that they can play on. So there's a major stadium, and then there's a second stadium, so we can keep our gate for the USL, the Brett Lashbrook's Lights, which I know you're a supporter and a promoter of, which is so appreciated.
And they do a great job. I mean, they are so great. I mean, they just match what our city is about. I mean, they've taken Las Vegas and brought it into the soccer universe.
Without question. And they've taken advantage of everything that Las Vegas is, which is to what you're alluding. And I just think the time's right. So much of life is timing, and a lot of it's who you know. But I mean, the fact that you do support them financially helps, because the advertising is what gives them the ability to advertise. But it's also proof to the commissioners. And what most people don't realize is all the major league sports teams are privately owned. So this team, the USL team, the Lights, is owned by Brett Lashbrook. They rent our facility. They shared it, as you know, with the prior Las Vegas team, the 51s, and before that, the Stars. And going forward, we were going to participate. The city originally, when the developers, they wanted to be at Symphony Park. Land was limited to what it could be on, and which was 12 acres. Out there at Cashman, we have already that we own, which we would be able to contribute or make that a piece of the finance. Cashman. And so, you know, that you're supporting them is fabulous.
So you're starting your third term, you're 12 years. Your husband had, 2 terms or 3?
3.
12 years?
12 years.
24. So after the 3-4 years from now, the Goodman run is over. Any future Goodmans coming in?
Well, I have to tell you in truth,
We only have
there's not any interest.
15 seconds.
There's not any interest there.
No interest yet.
And I get 1 more year than Oscar, because the governor and the legislature gave us another year.
Because they changed the term of the midterm elections to November.
So as competitive as he and
you
I are.
have beaten Oscar. Thank you very much, Mayor Carolyn Goodman.
Thanks, Ed.
My daughter Dana fought a long battle with Crohn's disease before passing last year. Max has spent a lifetime scoring goals.
It's our goal to help the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation find a cure for this horrible disease, so no one else's child has to suffer like Dana did.
Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis may be unfamiliar to you, but there are currently over 3 million Americans suffering from both. Join Max and I in scoring our goal to find a cure.